Welcome to our third live Azer View Roundtable conversation. I think it was only our second one.
Yeah, second.
Because the first one was just me and Brooke. And so it was a little, one-on-one conversation that we got to offer. But look who is in the room tonight. We have Brooke Norton, Deneen Ray, Stephanie Porter, Jocelyn Pierce, and someone else may be joining us as a little surprise, but we will leave it at that if that person should debut her presence.
Is it Oprah?
I am Oprah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you wanted to be Oprah? No, I am
No, you
Oprah.
said surprise guest. Is it Oprah?
Oh, wait, Deneen is coming into the room again. We're going to have two of Deneen. Maybe that's the surprise. Oh, she just disappeared. Okay, so this Azer Roundtable, I felt like maybe one of the most valuable things that we could talk about together is this COVID craziness that is now approaching 2 years that we all have experienced together and separate. And honestly, I think every single conversation I have every day, COVID like weasels its way into some sort of thread in the conversation. Like it's just an inescapable reality, like so-and-so got sick, or this plan got canceled, or having to rethink this whole deal, or I was planning on doing this, but now we're having to do this. Like it is just kind of an ever-present, dull throbbing in our lives. And when I thought about specifically the COVID craziness in 2 years, the two things that visually came to mind that I wanted to set us up with is first, this, because who doesn't remember the toilet paper shortage of 2020? This is clean toilet paper. Do not worry about this little dangle. But I think of COVID and I forever think of toilet paper and the scarcity mentality that went into toilet paper and whether or not we're all going to have some. That's a full rule. That's what we actually need. I'm going to throw mine away. The second thing that I think, because we're being real honest and real, right? This is the live Azer Roundtable. If we were in the wine selling business at Azer & Co., we would all be millionaires by now. So cheers to this conversation. Cheers to the four of you. Oh, none of you have wine. I got you. I'm just have a little sip.
I'm so jealous. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know we could bring wine to this party.
Me too. BYOB over here.
I wanted to surprise you all. I wanted to be a fun little.
It's 8 p.m. I already had my beer.
True. It's 5 o'clock here, so we're just getting started. So I want to get started with you all with a quick little rapid fire to help our community see how we have been in this together. So just by a raise of hands, raise your hands if you have contracted COVID. I'm talking to you all. Thank you. Thank you. I was like, I know you have. That's it. Really? Wow. We have been, that's miraculously protected. I do know other people on our team have had COVID even very recently. So Stephanie is not the purple unicorn here. Others have. So, okay. How many of you have felt overwhelmed? How many of you have felt exhausted? How many of you have needed to call your therapist? How many of you have felt crushed or just totally like swallowed up by this pandemic, emotionally, physically, relationally, whatever? Yep. And who of you have had to change your plans, cancel vacations, adjust calendar events? Like how many times this month, right? Is really the question. I was supposed to be with Jocelyn in person next week, and that plan got changed because this lovely Omicron virus. So we have most definitely felt the brunt and the weight of this pandemic in our own lives and our own work and our families. So I wanted to open up our conversation tonight with you all sharing a little bit about your own personal experiences. What's been painful? Like where have been pain points for you? If there's been like a moment, or if you can kind of capture just like a point in time that would summarize or give a picture into where this has been really difficult for you. I would love to start with like how we've experienced this pandemic individually. On the Azer View, there is no lull. I mean, those women are like jumping in to like talk over each other, basically. So you can keep your mutes unmuted because you can just jump in and communicate. I'm going to drink some wine.
Was Jocelyn finna go? Because I was gonna
You go, Denise.
Okay. I would just say it being that I work in a healthcare facility and not able to, always having to go work through this whole process, always having to be around people, helping them process our patient care, our employees. It's been very hard. It's been very hard. It's being rough. I think, so we're going into our third kind of year.
Yes.
For 2 years, no vacation, no time off, absolutely none. So it's like, now I'm like calling my boss going, okay, I'm coming in late. I'm the limit, can't take it anymore. Just need to go stare at a wall. So in this time, so I mean, that's as real as it gets. And it's very frustrating because within that setting, rules change. They apply to some people, they don't apply to some people. And now you're not even given benefits. Like, you get sick, it's your time. It's not even like, oh, well, here's this special time that was taken away in 2020. Wow. So people are like not wanting to take off because they want their time, and it's crazy. So
come on.
So
I'm so glad you started us being somebody who's in the healthcare realm, because it has been a huge weight and I've seen it. Jocelyn.
Yeah, well, when you were talking, Denise, I was starting my water boiling for my process. And I literally was like, wow. I mean, I think that if I hadn't had those moments of like being able to just check out of things. So just props to you. That sounds really difficult. I'm glad you're like taking time for yourself, and like is better than completely burning out. And I feel like I've had waves of things, which I guess is a bad description in COVID because it's always why it corresponds with the waves. And I was at like I think when it's like, we have all these different parts of our lives, like we have, whether you have like a partner or a spouse or, parents that you're taking care of, or kids, or your job, or money worries, or you lost your job, or friends, or whatever your living situation, like all of that stuff, that's just life stuff. And like all of that has like different levels of bandwidth, and normally like hopefully like, okay, like stuff with family picks up, stuff with work can calm down, like it all kind of levels out, and that's how we sort of stay sane. But I think in this whole process, as we have this COVID stuff in the background, just like this thing that's just sucking the battery out of life all the time, and then everything else is cranked to the max. It's like, I feel like then one tiny thing happens and I'm over the edge, and my bandwidth for like just like getting into that really tough place of hopelessness, or just like, not really knowing where I'm going or what I'm doing, and just really feeling deep fatigue is just easier. And I was in that place like probably last week, and I was really struggling, just because it feels like, teething baby. Like
I was gonna say, you had a baby during COVID.
Yeah.
I had a baby during COVID, and it's like crazy because you told us not to like talk in a novel, so I'm trying to keep it short.
Very true.
Like literally the last thing that I did March 2020, it was March 8th. I went out to dinner with a friend. Yeah, that was your last thing, because then you got sick. But then I had dinner with a friend March 8th. And then the next morning I like called out of work because I knew I was pregnant and I was really worried about going back into work. And then like a week later, they told me I was going to lose the pregnancy because like my numbers weren't right. Yeah. So it's like, I had to deal with like knowing I was pregnant, being too early to tell anybody, to like call out of work, dealing with, them saying that I was going to lose the pregnancy, going in for testing, not being available for Zoom anytime. It's like, I had to tell my mom I was pregnant because I had left the house, and she was like, well, where'd you go? Because it was like that. It was like,
quarantine. Totally.
So yeah, just, it's like, I'm like, oh, I guess it hasn't been that bad. Like, that really sucked. But I guess I didn't think that it would, like, I mean, my baby's like almost 15 months now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you carried her and you birthed her, and she has lived her whole life in this reality. Yeah, literally, like conception basically to right now has been a COVID reality.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Let's talk. Go ahead.
No, the conception was pre-pandemic. But
Let's talk about conception, Jocelyn.
She is darn cute, by the way.
thank you.
I
I'm a
think
fan.
we all thought this would be a sprint, and it has turned into the longest marathon ever. Like, again, like we were just saying, we're going on year 3. And I think for me personally, I've seen my own identity go through stages, not just like a stripping, because I thought it would just go through this like stripping phase. But no, there's been like stripping, there's been growth, there's been flourishing, there's been stripping again, And for me personally, I think in this season, in the new year of like 2022, what I'm just processing is like that comparison game against myself in the midst of this COVID season. It's like at one point I thought I was like really like being stretched and really growing. And I think this is such a natural part of life too, like we get taken up and then we get taken down, and life goes up and life goes down. And so I think I've had to learn to give myself a really big grace period, because it's not always going to be butterflies and rainbows. I'm not always going to feel like, yes, I know my identity and I know who I am. And so I think one thing that I've learned to kind of cope with this is like, what's one thing I'm accomplishing today? Just one thing. Like, and if it's like an hour, okay, cool. I made my list and that's all I got done today. Tomorrow I can do the list. And for me, that's just really helping reframe who I am in the midst of just this crazy COVID season.
Yeah.
So well said. Stephanie, you jump in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in. You said what were some pain points? It's like, let me tell you all of them.
Maybe not all of them.
I know we don't have that kind of time, but bullet points, right? Like, so I did get COVID pre-vaccine, pre-infusions, pre-doctors knowing any kind of medication. I was pretty much couch bedridden for 32 days. I am a high energy kind of girl. I am a high energy kind of girl. I move, I shake, I'm standing right now. Like, I just don't sit down. I lost my mind. I couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes for over a month, and I literally thought I was going crazy. I journaled a lot, and it was really a lament journal. Why this? Why me? I'm so lonely. I'm not enough. You must be punishing me. Like, I had it out for everyone. On top of those kinds of things, I have 2 teenagers, and right when we entered quarantine, my oldest had 2 like suicide attempts. I have to be quiet because she's right next door, and that's still, interesting ground to tread, her story to tell. But it also is mine. And we had to navigate that. My husband had no change during quarantine whatsoever, went to work every single day, completely checked out of our marriage, completely checked out of our life. And so it was me and my daughters in the house for years. He'd leave at 7 a.m. and get home at 7 p.m. So pain points, sex life, my marriage, my mental health, my physical health, everything suffered. My whole world got flipped upside down. My job changed, my house changed, my kids' school changed. The list is lengthy.
It literally covers every single dimension. When we talk about wholeness in the 6 dimensions, I think that for all of us, we could identify where wholeness has been attacked or threatened or harmed. But you just bullet pointed really all 6.
There you go.
Yeah. And I would say for myself, I'm similar, you know, like Stephanie and I are both in the aggressive triad of the Enneagram. She's a 7, I'm an 8. So like all energy all day long, all the dreams, all the ideas, all the moving and shaking, get stuff done, take names while you're doing it. And I went from traveling a ton to, I haven't been on a plane for work since COVID began. Massive pattern interruption, massive change. My husband got a brand new job literally the day that we started quarantine, which was a gift in a lot of ways, but it sent him into a massive shift in the way that he worked and the way that we cared for our kids. You know, Azer & Co. is now 34 months old, and 22 of those months have been in COVID. So for a company that was primarily earning revenue off of me being on the road, was no longer, that was eliminated within the first month. So, I mean, there's been so many different pain points for me, but I think a lot of the pain points connect to what Brooke is talking about, of like, we thought this was going to be a sprint.
Oh yeah.
We thought this would be done, you know, by the end of summer 2020, and we could carry on to life as usual. And then we went into a full year of e-learning with our kids. And so I think that like the compounding losses for me have been one of the most painful things. Like I feel like I can handle disappointment and I can handle loss, and I've experienced a fair amount of pain in my life, and I've journeyed through some hard stuff, and I feel like I've got good muscle for like going through hard things. This has felt really otherworldly. Like,
Yeah.
Brian and I, my husband and I, keep talking. You guys know Brian, but for those who are listening, like Brian and I keep talking about like 10 years from now, how are we going to look back on these years? How are we going to talk about them? How are we going to remember them? Which kind of actually leads to where I want to go next in the conversation of really like, who are you becoming, you know? And like, what are the things that you are doing to not be stuck, to not let this narrative be COVID sucks and the whole world is over and I can't do anything and everything and everybody and the, you know, the shame game and the name blame and the blame game, like that we take some ownership and responsibility to participate in our lives in a way that we talk about, that we do our work, you know, as coaches with women. So I'd love to hear like what has been a practice or a mindset or a mantra or a, you know, like a reflective point that has allowed you to not become cynical, bitter, you know, angry, stuck in the past, stuck in the present, whatever. What's been something that's been anchoring you and propelling you through this process? And let's actually be really current, because again, we've all talked about lots of iterations. Like this is year 3. So like present day, January 2022, what is a mindset, a mantra, a practice that you are anchoring yourself and centering yourself in?
I think for me, it's,
yes, fight.
I think for me, it's simply rest. I mean, I'm trying to give myself, like I mentioned before, the break and the grace to be able to sleep in when I can, and to like nap when I can, or if I can't, like sit down, you know, just simply sit down for half a second. Because so often we just run ourselves rampant trying to like be productive and be efficient and be successful, but we are not those things. That's not our identity. And so for me, that practice has really been rest.
Yeah, that's really good.
I was gonna say for me, it's been silence and solitude, which is hilarious because I'm a 7 and I hate being alone. But that's how I actually refuel. And it took me a bit to figure that out. I'm in my house, I'm with my girls 24/7. I don't have anywhere to go. And so I got out in nature a lot. And that is a practice I continue daily. And sometimes I take off my shoes and am barefoot and just have to feel the earth and reground myself. But I do that often. Close my eyes, breathe. Yeah.
For me, like as an Enneagram 4, I like can get very caught up in my emotions, and so like emotion is reality, which can guide me many times. But when I'm like losing, when I'm like just so caught up in hopelessness, like it's been really important for me to be like, this is today and this is now and it's not forever. And so like honoring where I am, like the other day, I was really, 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 really struggling. And, you know, my husband works full time, an hour away. I have a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. Like I'm home with them. I still work. I'm a pastor. But I'm like with them during the day and trying to field phone calls about like whatever, you know, church stuff. And like, it's just too much. Like I don't sleep in, I don't know. Like rest is like LOL, you know, and that's like today, you know, it's not forever. And I do have some things that I have been doing. So I don't know if we'll come back to that, but just like,
no, that's what we're talking about. What are you doing?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the mantra. It's like, you know, it's okay that I feel the way I feel. Like, it's okay that I feel at rock bottom. Like that is where I am right now. And I'm a withdrawing type. So, you know, it is very easy for me, especially with like the disruption and transitions that have happened in my life. Like I don't really have like my besties at work. I don't have, you know, I'm in a different life stage right now. I don't have like, you know, that next door neighbor. I just moved in May. Like I don't have that next door neighbor that, you know, I can just run over there and be like, hey, can you watch my kids for 20 minutes? Or, I mean, I don't know their vaccination status, like all these things that you have to think about even before you get like a babysitter.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
so
real.
I like have been working on like reaching out instead of just like going inside. And so like I called my mom. I mean, I was kvetching basically to anybody who would listen, but I called my mom and like it was just interesting because like, you know, weeping on the phone with my mom, and then she started brainstorming because I couldn't. I was like, there's no resources, like I cannot do this. And she like actually helped me brainstorm to get to a place where she was like, okay, like what if you and your sister, my sister lives like 45 minutes away and she has 2 kids. And so it was like, okay, what if you guys do like a babysitting co-op thing together? And like, that's almost like an obvious solution, but like we couldn't think about it because we're both like, just show up at each other's houses, like sad refugees, like, can I like sit on your couch for 5 minutes while the kids play with your toys? And and then like I can't take sick days as a mom, but my husband does get sick days. And so I was like, I genuinely like very much need you to take a sick day, and he didn't. But then by the 3rd day, when I was like, take a sick day or don't come home, he took a sick day. I love you so much. But it's just like, where are the resources when it just feels like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel in every area of life? And honestly, that helped me so much. Like it's a small thing, but like that's why when you texted April about doing this, I was like, I don't know anything to tell you. But like I'm in a different place because like I reached out, I got compassion, I brainstormed with people to help me see from another perspective. And then I did try to access like the community resources from within my family to be able to like help me tap out because I had nothing left.
Yeah, that's great.
Good for you.
Good for you. Deneen.
I'm, to be honest, I'm still there. I mean, I'm still processing. I don't know what. I will say this, that because I'm always with people, I don't want to be with people, but then I want to be with people. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Like, it's like, I want the socialization, but I don't want to hear you talk. I don't want to hear you do anything. I don't want the phone to ring. I don't want anything. But then when you're at home by yourself, you're like, wait, but then I want people, but I guess it's certain people you want around you.
Like us, you like us, right?
Right.
You want to be here right now with us.
Right. So it's just like, and then things that used to, journaling and where I could find something, it just, I feel like it doesn't work anymore. But because I've been so go, 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 that I wasn't doing it. So now when I'm trying to do it, my mind doesn't slow down enough. So then, when I use the term sit and stare at a wall, I mean that. Like, I just have to stop and not do anything in order just to think. I could go from here to the door and be like, okay, what was I doing? Because it's just, I'm so busy, go, go, go. So, and like I used to say, like Disneyland, it used to be my, my release or my centering or my laughter or my joy or, and now I don't go there anymore for the last 2 years. So it's like that place that would just bring you that extra, like, okay, now I'm ready to go back. I can deal with all the mess. I can deal with all the junk. There's not that release, because even if you say retail therapy, that's not even the same. Me and Amazon are best friends, but that can only get you so far. It's not like going to the mall and going in the store. So it's just things that you used to do to bring that.
My sister today was like, I just went through my saved for laters and added all to cart.
That would be a fun shirt. I would wear that.
So fantastic. Okay, what I love about each of what you all shared is really I can see your Enneagram type showing up in what you need to do right now, which I think is so important. I love and appreciate so much how you all know how you know yourselves and how it is that you are responding to our current reality within the realm of what it looks like for you to care for yourself, what it looks like for you to lead yourself toward wholeness. And, like even Deneen, hearing you talk about like staring at a wall, you're a 9, right? So like, it's easy for you to lose a sense of yourself naturally. So how much more in a pandemic when everything and everyone else has been demanding of your time and you have had to push, like how much more necessary is it for you to reclaim yourself in this season? Because to abdicate yourself is the easiest thing in the world to do, right? So I love that. And I also think, Deneen, what you said about the old things aren't working anymore. I hear that so much from the women that we coach and from the conversations I have with people. It's like, well, I used to do this, but this doesn't fill the need anymore. And part of the challenge in moving forward is when the reserves are low and the old stuff isn't working, to find new stuff can be so freaking overwhelming. Like Jocelyn described, like it was an easy solution to go to your sister's house and swap kids for a hot second, like to brainstorm a couple of ways of what it is that you can do that you haven't already had in your arsenal or Rolodex or whatever we're doing to use. That takes some discipline and practice. So those outside voices can be really valuable, which kind of leads us to where we want to go in this final segment of the Azer View Roundtable is in looking forward. We have had a lot of conversations about, particularly in our coaching groups, how coaching and the work that we do with women this year cannot feel hard. It cannot feel like a hustle or exhausting or a push or a massive goal or a mountain to climb or breakthrough. Like any of that, like exertion kind of work feels to most women that I talk with, not in the realm of desire whatsoever. So instead, what is the work that we do? Which phrase? What did I say?
That's just not in the realm of desire for me right now.
Okay, so you can use that. Just tag me on Instagram as quoting is for us to do things that are going to renew our energy, that will bring freedom, that will birth life in us, that will cultivate joy. That actually the work that we do together and with women is about that. And those kinds of results are transformative, especially after going into our 3rd year now of this pandemic. And so I would love to wrap up this final segment with you all, speaking directly to a woman that you've been having a conversation with this week, or, you know, a friend of yours, about what would you say to her in moving forward into this year, knowing what we know, living in the reality that we are right now?
Even just slowing down to think about that makes me feel a little emotional.
Why?
Because it's heavy. You know, you feel for her. And so I was like, I don't want to just speak shallow words. I really want to sit with you, and I want to feel what you like. You know, it feels camaraderie, right? Like I can look at each of your faces and feel the heaviness that you've held. And I just kind of want to look in your eyes and go, yeah, we're in this together first, you know, and then take a deep breath. Right. And I was privileged to be able to lead a group, the last 6-month coaching group that we did. And as each of you phenomenal coaches are sharing, I'm like, we cover that in month 2. We cover that in week 3. You know, in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, coaching gives you such practical rhythms and practices that can be answers to everything that we were saying we're struggling in. And so I hold on to hope for her.
Mm-hmm.
There is hope.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
I love what you had to say, Stephanie. I'm going back to just thinking about how we were talking about sprints and marathon. And oftentimes when you're running a marathon, like I've never run one. I don't know if I ever will. Probably not in my book for me to do that, but you never know.
You just said you never will, which means
that's right.
You're going to do it.
I probably will.
Come it.
Anyways, so I feel like what do marathon runners do when they get done running? They have to slow down. They have to like ice their bodies. They have to take a cold, ice cold bath. And I think I'm reminded that coaching can be refreshing and it can be healing for all of these things, these pain points that we've been talking about, that all of us on this call and all these women that are listening, all of these women that we know, we all have pain points and we need the ice bath. And coaching can get us kind of through some of these healing moments. So that's what I would say.
It's really good. The recovery after the race.
Right.
Essential. Yeah. And like talking about, you know, we've hit so many COVID walls. That's been a phrase that has gone around, right? And that's true when you run a marathon as well. Like people talk about hitting the wall at mile 22 or whatever. But then you still continue and you can finish the race, but how you run that last bit and who you run it with, and then what you do on the flip side is everything.
I'm just seeing the little pit stop guy from Cars, you know, when he pulls over and he's like, zoom, 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 and like changes him out and it's like, okay, go. Kind of like that. No,
I know, same. No,
I'm just kidding.
I would say to the women that I've had the opportunity to speak to, I remind them of the words that they use. They often use the words of, I want, you know, recovery. I want community. I want wholeness. I want change. And then when you tell them, well, you have to take the time out to do it. You have to remind them, you can't just say the words. You know, we're giving you the opportunity to come into a community where that can be done, but you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And a lot of us say the words, but we don't want to take the steps to actually do it. Like we don't want to take the time to invest in ourselves. And we feel like, oh no, we're going to take care of everybody else. And we're going to make sure everybody else is okay. And then by that time, you know, we've hit rock bottom and there's nothing else. And it's like, no. And this is a perfect time at the beginning of the new year. Let's knock it out, you know, start it off right and invest in yourself. You know, it's time, you know, it's your turn, you know, someone's passing the baton over to you. Now it's your turn. So
Say I love that.
Sprints. Yes.
It's a lot of running metaphors, which is perfect because Jocelyn is actually training for a marathon.
Ooh.
Oh,
so
I
a half marathon, but yeah,
Same.
it's still really far. Yeah, like I was thinking about when I used to go on vacation with my family, like when I was younger, and we would spend the whole day in the pool and we would do like races, and we're like a beach pool family, but it's like when you get to a hotel and there's like a big pool and you can do like challenge everybody to a race, and then like the next day we'd all be like, are we having heart attacks? Like we never use whatever this is, and so we'd be like so sore, and we'd be like, should we go to the emergency room? And then we'd be like, oh yeah, we were swimming all day yesterday. And I think it's kind of like that right now, where I say this all the time. I'm like, I've never been a person who's lived through a crisis like this, not such a bad crisis in my personal life. I'm blessed, to have never been through such a severe crisis, a communal crisis that everybody's going through, that's stretching us all to the brink. Yeah. I've never done that before. And so sometimes like, I'm like, where is that strain? Like, where is that coming from? Like, what is that? Because I've never done this before. And so it does take that time to sort of say like, hey, wait a second, what is that and why? And then to figure out what is a response. Like, I don't automatically know, like, how do I stretch that? Like, I don't know, because I'm not used to it. And so I think what's really compelling about the coaching model in these groups is that like, it does allow you to go through and assess like all the different aspects of your life, because we all know that like for women, our lives are a sweater that you try to pull a thread and the whole thing, like it affects everything. And so, maybe in the past when you got stressed, like you could do this thing because you knew it came from that and that's how you respond to stress. But now it's just not as one-to-one. And so I think having like, definitely would echo what Denise said of like, of my job, I think, is to like create a space that is for you to say like, okay, what is happening in this space of my life? And like, what are some tools that I can use to respond, and how can I try them on and like try out the stretches, and like, does that work? Does that fit? And when it doesn't work, stop using it. And let's find something that works better. But that's going to be it is going to be active, and it will take time, but it's really important that we're all treading water and we're all in survival mode. But when somebody like throws you a life preserver, like take it and rest. Don't be like Jack and say you won't get on the door. I don't know, I'm stretching it, but anyway.
Come back.
I feel like this is just saying like, hey, I know this feels like work, but it's actually a rest.
Right.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I love the reenactment.
We had some acting going on as you were making your point. So hopefully that was a gift to everyone. Your heart will go on. I am really grateful that I have had, a closer view of you all's life in the last couple of years, or last year plus. And one of the things
you still like us.
I do. I still like you so much. I love you. And part of like why you have my heart and my trust is because you are doing the work, right? So to the 4 of you that are here, like, I know you are doing your work, that you are not just coaching externally, but there is the internal work that is being done, which makes you such trustworthy guides and is such an invitation that like you can be both thriving and struggling at the same time. And that the struggle doesn't discount you from the thriving, but it actually gives it even more authority, because you all have overcome some significant things. You have been tested. You have waded in the deep waters. And so with the women who are part of your groups that you have the privilege of coaching, it is such a gift, because you're not some like inspirational fancy pansy, like hype them up girl. Like you've gone deep, you are trustworthy in that. So I would say that to you all, as I'm saying that to the women that are listening, is that, you know, I trust you to be able to coach women into greater wholeness after 2 years in a pandemic, and who knows what's to come, you know, come what may, but we have one another, and to do it together and to go through, to be on a pathway, in a process that will birth more wholeness is exactly what we need. So
yeah,
thank you for your honesty. Cheers.
I'm gonna go get some now.
I got a fake glass of wine on here.
For your sticker.
Have water.
All right, these are fun. We're gonna do more of these in this community because this is where it's at. All right, peace.
Bye.
Bye.